Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism with a letter for Donald Trump. If you think this letter is important for Donald Trump to see, please share it through social media or send it directly to Donald Trump either through Twitter at RealDonaldTrump or through email by sending it to djt@trumporg.com. A downloadable link is in the description, as well as a link to his Twitter and his email address. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Trump, on becoming the 45th President of the United States. Well, 44th in actuality. Well, if you count the 8 before George Washington, who was the first Masonic president, you're number 53. Whatever it is, congratulations.
Thank you very much, everyone.
I hope to get just 10 minutes of your time, and it is all I will ask for your entire presidency, and in all honesty, your entire life. 10 minutes is all I ask. I want to talk to you about the evidence of collusion, deception, and in all ways a conspiracy. Not a conspiracy theory, because once you have evidence, the idea of theory goes away. It becomes a conspiracy. Mr. Trump, if you really care as you say you do, then my hope is to reveal to you some truth that has been veiled from the masses at the country's expense. I love science, I really do. But I love real science, not the science that we are given today. One of the greatest scientists ever, Abu al-Hazen, said,
"The seeker after the truth is not one who studies the writings of the ancients and following his natural disposition puts his trust in them, but rather the one who suspects his faith in them and questions what he gathers from them. The one who submits to argument and demonstration and not to the sayings of a human being whose nature is fraught with all kinds of imperfection and deficiency. Thus the duty of the man who investigates the writings of scientists, if learning the truth is his goal, is to make himself an enemy of all that he reads, and applying his mind to the core and margins of its content, attack it from every side."
He understood that science is the questioning of current beliefs. Whatever is thought to be the current facts need to be attacked and challenged. The truth will always stand up to inquiry. The lies, however, will not. So, Mr. Trump, let me show you and inform you of some things, and my hope would be that you, being the intelligent person that you are, will look into these things and help drain the swamp. Let's begin in the past and explore why science believes what they believe. For example, Edwin Hubble saw that all galaxies are moving away from us, and because of those observations, science had a choice: to say that we were the center of the universe, or to make up another possible explanation. Now, here comes the problem. How would you feel if you found out that the direction science went in is philosophically based? Here's what Edwin Hubble said about their choice of spatial curvature.
"But the unwelcome supposition of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favored position, of course, is intolerable. Therefore, in order to restore homogeneity and to escape the horror of a unique position, the departures from uniformity, which are introduced by recession factors, must be compensated by the second term representing effects of spatial curvature. There seems to be no other escape."
A favored position must be avoided at all costs? Intolerable? Does that sound like real science to you, Mr. Trump? So to stay away from the absolute horror of a unique position, they decided to go against observation and to make a decision based philosophically, not scientifically. So is that true? That science might be making decisions separate from observations? Well, the great physicist George Ellis said,
You can only exclude it on philosophical grounds. In my view, there is absolutely nothing wrong in that. What I want to bring into the open is the fact that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that.
So it's pretty clear then that science, which is open and true, has tried to hide something. So the ideas that men have sold to the masses are religious-based. They are not based in facts and evidence, but based in what some men want to be true. That doesn't sound like science to me. So great minds like Carl Sagan, who told people many times over that we are insignificant and just a tiny speck in a vast universe 14 billion years old and 14 billion light years in every direction, and notice that 14 billion light years in every direction seems to place us in the center, doesn't it? Well, Sagan reasoned,
"The size and age of the cosmos are beyond ordinary human understanding. Lost somewhere between immensity and eternity is our tiny planetary home. In a cosmic perspective, most human concerns seem insignificant, even petty, and yet our species is young and curious and brave, and shows much promise. In the last few millennia, we have made the most astonishing and unexpected discoveries about the cosmos and our place within it, explorations that are exhilarating to consider. They remind us that humans have evolved to wonder, that understanding is a joy, that knowledge is a prerequisite to survival. I believe our future depends on how well we know this cosmos, in which we float like a mote of dust in the morning sky."
so once it's understood that science has an agenda, a want, and certain requirements, we must challenge some so-called truths and demand to see the evidence that led to those facts. Well, when you do, you find corruption, collusion, secret societies, lies, cover-ups, and hate, and a shunning of anyone simply asking those questions. So recently you made a contract.
It's a contract between Donald J. Trump and the American voter, and it begins with bringing honesty, accountability, and change to Washington, D.C.
I hope I can help to make that truth rise to the surface. Politicians are a problem. They are paid off by other interests, and they don't represent me or the rest of this country.
I'm not a politician and have never wanted to be a politician. Believe me. But when I saw the trouble our country was in, I knew I couldn't stand by and watch any longer.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really hope you can help, because the system simply doesn't work.
I've seen the system up close and personal for many years. I've been a major part of it. I know how the game works in Washington and on Wall Street, and I know how they've rigged the rules of the game against everyday Americans. The rules are rigged.
I absolutely agree. Massive rigging. And I think you come across as being one of us. And if that is true, then I hope, by your position, you can help bring the truth back to the forefront.
The dishonest mainstream media is also part, and a major part, of this corruption.
Again, I agree 100%. The media is bought and paid for and controlled. So it shouldn't be a surprise to find out that the media pushes a certain narrative, and the narrative is rarely the truth.
The rigging of the system is designed for one reason: to keep the corrupt establishment and special interests in power at your expense and everybody's expense. I have no special interest but you, the American voter.
You have no idea how true I hope that is. If it is true, you will look into these things that I talk about and see that the lies are being taught as truth and being held up by special interests and a corrupt media.
I didn't have to do this, believe me. There's nothing easy about it. But I had to do it. I love our country. I love the people of our country. And I felt I had to do it.
Well, I'm here for that exact same reason. I feel that I have to help bring out the truth, and I know you can probably do more than anyone.
One thing we all know is that we will never solve our problems by relying on the same politicians who created these problems in the first place.
I couldn't agree more. We need change.
We now find ourselves at that very special fork in the road. Do we repeat the mistakes of the past, or do we choose to believe that a great future, yet unwritten, still lies ahead for us and for our wonderful, beloved country? I think it does. I know it does.
I choose a great future, built on truth and on real, repeatable science.
Corruption is massive. We will drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. and replace it with a new government of, by, and for the people. Believe me.
Drain it. Replace it. And wow, how I wish that I could actually see the day that government was of, for, and by the people. If that were the case, what a better world we would live in.
I'm asking the American people to rise above the noise and the clutter of our broken politics and to embrace that great faith and optimism that has always been the central ingredient in the American character. And there's nothing better or stronger than the American character.
You know what? I agree with you here more than I can say. So let me tell you my thoughts and my observations, and I hope you see the reason the questions must be asked. What I'm about to say is not mainstream and not well accepted by people in the world. In fact, some of it causes people to hate it. Americans are amazing people. This country is made up of some of the greatest minds that have ever lived. Our inventions and innovations are second to none, and our combined abilities and ingenuity are unmatched. However, this has not stopped a certain agency from stealing money, misdirecting resources, and lying to the entire world. That agency that needs to be looked into is NASA. And I understand that with every president since Kennedy, and possibly even including Kennedy, there has been a policy in place that requires a continued lying to the public. With Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, they have all allowed the almost 60 years of lies taught as scientific fact. If something is science, then by its very nature it is open to questioning and challenge. And we just saw how this idea of truth and scientific fact may be more of a religion or ideology than we had ever thought or could have imagined. So science may say that the closest star is 25 trillion miles away and that the sun is 93 million miles away. And while they show us planetary images and nebulas and galaxies, all of those images actually are not even in the human vision spectrum. They are comprised of data that is all run through NASA's computers and then printed out for us to see. Mr. Trump, I understand why you might think that all we have been taught about space is true, and I am simply asking you to look into it. If it were a lie, well then space agencies would be nothing more than a money-making scheme providing nothing to the taxpayer. In fact, Mr. Trump, get this. NASA has developed and invented applications and products that they receive patents for. Then they sell those patents to companies who in turn use them to provide services and create products that they sold to the American public, who are the very people who funded the inventions in the first place. That is not how a productive society should operate. Only 0.00000042% of humans have ever been to space. So there is a possibility there and a potential for us to be deceived. You spoke about the need of government to be about the people. Well, Mr. Trump, pick me to be the head of NASA. Currently, we have Charles Bolden as NASA's head administrator, but he is one of the 0.00000042%. So that again has left us open for deception. NASA is a monopoly in every way known to man. And if you think SpaceX is a private company who would be able to verify those works of NASA, well, listen here.
To date, we've delivered more than 30,000 data items to the Air Force and provided total access to our internal systems to more than 300 government officials for certification.
You yourself have seen what happens when special interests get involved with science in regards to climate change. Luckily, you're going to address that. but it might be more prevalent than even you think. So we need an independent head of NASA, not an ex-astronaut. Mr. Trump, you need to look into the moon landings and help get the truth out. I understand that questioning it gets you the title of a tinfoil hat wearer, conspiracy theorist, but this would be the case if it was all a ruse. If the United States did not go to the moon, the public deserves the truth. NASA was started by Nazi scientists who tested on human subjects and who knew and used mind control. We haven't been back to the moon in over 40 years. There is a reason. We know now that travel past the Van Allen belts is impossible. But there are many other things that we are starting to see. Mr. Trump, did you know that there is no 24/7 live feed of Earth from space? Make sure you look into this and don't let people tell you that we do. You need to look into it. Because the current feed, in every 30 minutes, you will see either this, or this, or this. Again, we are leaving ourselves open to deception. How can we have a craft in orbit that has cameras aboard it, and yet the very people who have paid for that craft and the cameras cannot get a 24/7 view of their home from space? It's ridiculous, and it needs to be taken care of. Another issue, Mr. President, is the lack of any evidence of a 24-hour sun that circles the southern continent. Also, the blocking of people who want to travel to Antarctica. There are trips to the very edge, but it certainly raises a red flag that while we war with these countries and have these strained relationships, we have a weird chronology. We can see that in the 50s and 60s, operations took place such as Operation Fishbowl, where they were launching bombs up at the sky. Around the same time, in 1957, Sputnik was launched, and in response, the NACA was shut down and NASA was started. Then, during the International Geophysical Year of 1957 to 1958, major countries got together and drafted the Antarctic Treaty. And in 1961, 12 countries, who were enemies in all other areas, got together and agreed to protect or block Antarctica. That number is now 53. 53 countries that have agreed to the treaty. Mr. President, what are they hiding from us, the people? So, while NASA may have brought the world together with Apollo, and it may have brought creativity and unity, but if it also brought an outright deception and a systematic fraud, then I hope you will be addressing that. When our Juno craft entered Jupiter's orbit, the confirmation of that fact came in the way of a tone, Mr. Trump. A tone. Does that prove that fact? Or could it be possible that the man behind the curtain caused that tone? So should it surprise us that in a world where companies make money from selling drugs to the sick, that people are sick? I mean, should it surprise us when companies make money off wars that we're in a constant state of war? And should it surprise us that in schools we have lies being taught as truth, and we have a nation of very confused people? Doesn't surprise me, but I know it should end. So Mr. Trump, Mr. President, I thank you for your time, and feel free to contact me if you'd like me to step in as the new NASA head administrator. I am available. All I can say is that if I were the head of NASA tomorrow, the world would know the truth. There are problems with the formula of the curvature of Earth, the proof of the spin, which has never been shown, and so much more. Again, science may say they have the proof, but when asked, you get called names, and the further you research, the more you find out that all of our scientific facts have gone through not the scientific method, but science's philosophical method, and that simply isn't science. So I look forward to the truth coming back during your term, and I am here to help you in every way I can. If the same lies are allowed to continue from NASA, just know I will keep striving for the truth, and I will realize that you are just another leader in a line of them who govern for themselves and care nothing for the lies that are taught and told to the American people, and just another leader who allows a religion based on philosophical criteria to be allowed to be taught in schools as scientific fact. This is against the Constitution and is against everything that this country is about. 60 years of lies from NASA is enough. Let's end it.
This is my pledge to you. And if we follow these steps, we will once more have a government of, by, and for the people. And importantly, we will make America great again. Believe me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Again, congratulations. I wish you the best And be kind, don't lie, open your mind. There's truth inside. This has been Jeranism. Till next time.